3 hours. That is all it took. 3 hours after my husband, Harold, and I stood at our daughter's door staring at our own photo, taped beside the words, "Do not let them in her perfect Christmas dinner," collapsed piece by piece. We did not knock. We did not beg. We turned around and walked away. And the moment our footsteps left her porch, the unraveling began. I am Rowena Blake, 70 years old this winter, and I have lived long enough to know when a line has been crossed. But nothing prepared me for the cold certainty that settled inside me when I saw that paper. It was printed, trimmed, placed at eye level. Not a mistake, not a misunderstanding, a decision. Harold froze beside me, his breath catching. "Rowena, is she serious?" His voice cracked the way it used to when he was a young bus driver afraid of speaking up to his supervisor. I could feel him trembling, and I almost reached for his hand. Almost. "She is," I said quietly. Someone put time into this. From inside the townhouse, laughter rose and fell like a warm tide. The kind of polished holiday sound our daughter, Celeste Donovan, always chased. It stung how normal everything sounded while we stood outside like we were the danger she needed protection from. Harold looked at me again, searching for direction the way he always had. Should we try the bell? Maybe she did not see us. She saw us. I kept my voice steady. "And she chose this." His eyes filled, but he nodded. Harold has always followed my lead, even when it broke his heart. We stepped off the porch, neither of us saying another word. Behind us, Christmas lights glowed through the frosted glass, soft and golden, like nothing was wrong, but something was wrong. And 3 hours later, the cracks we had walked away from would split wide open. To understand how her Christmas fell apart, we need to return to the moment she shut the door on us before the door even opened. Christmas morning arrived under Portland's gray winter sky, the kind that makes every sound feel softened, even the tension sitting between my husband and me. I stood at the kitchen counter tying a ribbon around a box of cookies when Harold shuffled in, already dressed in the only suit he owned. "You sure she wants us there early?" he asked, fastening the top button with fingers that shook more than usual. "That is what she said," I replied. "Celeste wants everything timed perfectly." I tried to keep my voice light, but even I could hear the strain. Harold stared at the box. "I do not want to embarrass her. Ro, her friends, they are different from us. Different does not mean better." I placed the cookies in the bag beside the 2 gifts wrapped in green paper. We raised her to stand tall, not to be ashamed of where she came from. He hesitated. "Still, I do not want to show up and make her feel small. That is not what we do," I said. But inside, something pinched, because lately, everything we did seemed to make her uncomfortable. As Harold stepped into the living room to find his gloves, my phone buzzed with a notification from the catering company, a reminder of the partial payment due at the end of the month. My stomach tightened. Celeste had insisted she needed a polished Christmas dinner to impress the families she hoped to network with. She said she would cover the cost, but then she called me in a rush 2 weeks ago, her voice thin and hurried. "Mom, can you handle the initial deposit? I just ran out of time to move things around. Just time, not money." That is what she claimed, but I recognized the tone. I had heard it too many times before. So I paid half the balance quietly and told Harold nothing. No sense worrying him more than life already did. Harold returned, pulling on his coat. "Ro, do you think they will notice us?" "They will notice our kindness," I said, though even I felt the words wobble. For 40 years we had poured our lives into one girl, giving until our hands were empty, and still, somehow, it never felt like enough. We stepped out into the cold, carrying gifts wrapped in ribbon, stepping toward a dinner we hoped would bring us closer, even as something fragile inside us pulled away. We reached Celeste's townhouse just before dusk, Pies balanced in my hands, gifts tucked under Harold's arm, warm light spilled through the windows, and laughter rolled out each time someone opened the door. It sounded festive, practiced, polished, exactly the kind of world our daughter tried so hard to build. Harold cleared his throat. Maybe we should wait a minute. I do not want to barge in. We were invited for 5. I said, "This is on time." He nodded, though his shoulders curled inward, as if bracing for a blow. I stepped forward, ready to knock, but something taped to the door stopped me. It was our photo one we had taken last summer at the river, both of us sunburned and smiling. Across it, in thick black marker, someone had written, "Do not let them in." Harold blinked hard. "Row, who would do that? That cannot be real." "It is her handwriting," I said softly. He reached out as if to peel the paper off, but the door cracked open first. A young man in a red sweater poked his head out, holding a drink. He looked from us to the sign, then back again. His smile faltered. Hi." He stepped halfway into the doorway, blocking the view inside. "I think Celeste is still getting things ready. We can wait," Harold offered. Voice small, the man swallowed, glanced over his shoulder, then slowly pushed the door until only a sliver of warm light remained. "I am sorry," he whispered before closing it completely. Harold staggered back as if someone had struck him. "Rowena, no, she would not, but she would." Because when I lifted my eyes to the upstairs landing window, I saw her Celeste in a glittering dress. One hand curled around the railing. Her gaze met mine. She hesitated only a moment before turning away, disappearing into the noise of her perfect evening. Harold's breath broke. She saw us. She saw us standing here. I took his arm gently. "We are leaving." We did not knock. We did not speak. We walked down the steps, pies still in our hands, gifts untouched. The winter air sharp against our faces as something colder settled inside me. The drive down Burnside Street was silent except for the soft rattle of the pies shifting in the back seat. Harold kept both hands locked on the wheel, his knuckles pale and rigid. Every few seconds he inhaled sharply, as though starting to speak, but nothing came. She looked right at us. He finally whispered, "Our own daughter." I stared out the window, watching the lights smear into long ribbons. "I know." He shook his head. "What did we do to deserve that?" The answer rose in my chest, heavy and familiar, but I swallowed it down. This was not the moment to unravel. Not while Harold was barely holding himself together. My phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it at first, but the screen lit up again, and the name Chef Maren Ortiz pulled at something sharp inside me. I opened the email. "Hi, Rowena. Confirming your card is still listed as the primary payer for tonight's service. We will process the remainder tomorrow morning." I let out a slow, bitter breath. "Something wrong?" Harold asked quietly. "Nothing we have not seen before," I murmured, but the truth pressed against my ribs. I had covered so many of Celeste's late bills over the years that I had lost count. The tuition payments she forgot about, the credit card debt she claimed was temporary, the townhouse mortgage I had co-signed because she said it would help her qualify, and the way she corrected us in public. "Mom, do not say it like that." "Dad, please do not wear that jacket tonight. Try not to talk too much about work. People will not understand." I used to tell myself she was just nervous, trying to fit in. Now I saw it clearly. She had been pulling away for years, trimming us out of her life like unwanted edges on a photograph. Harold exhaled shakily. "Ro, why would she put that sign up? Why tonight of all nights I built that dinner?" I said quietly, "every inch of it. And she could not bear to be seen with us." The words came out calm, almost flat, but inside, something cracked and settled into place. Whatever had allowed her to treat us this way, our softness, our endless giving, that part of me would not survive tonight. When we reached home, I hung up my coat. sat at the table, and opened my laptop with a calmness that felt foreign. My fingers barely hesitated as I typed the email to Chef Marin. Marin, cancel all unpaid portions. Do not continue service without direct payment from the on-site organizer. Remove my card from your system immediately. I hit send. The clock on the microwave read 5:28, hour 0, hour 1. According to Marin's later voicemail, the shift was immediate. She gathered her staff in the kitchen and said, "Pause everything." The burners flicked off. The trays stopped moving. A room full of guests waited for food that would not arrive. Celeste stepped in, glossy and impatient. "Why are you all standing around? The first course should already be plated." Marin stayed professional. "We are awaiting payment confirmation." "You are joking," Celeste scoffed. "My mother has an account with you." "Not anymore," Marin replied. She removed her card. Trent stormed in. "You people always pull this on holidays. Fine, run my card." But the card machine blinked red. Guests nearby whispered, shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. Hour 2. Marin cleared her throat and raised her voice just enough to carry across the dining room. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will proceed once the outstanding balance is settled." Celeste yanked out her wallet. "Just put everything on mine." Another decline. Trent tried his again, jaw tightening with each attempt. "This is insane. Try it again. It will not change," Marin said gently. "Perhaps you have another form of payment." Faces around the table dropped. A couple stood up quietly, murmuring about needing to relieve their babysitter. Another pair followed them out the door. Celeste's smile grew brittle. "Everyone, please sit." It is a small hiccup, but the room was already thinning. Hour 3. The building superintendent, Mrs. Keating, knocked loudly on the open door. "I need the organizer," she said. "We have multiple noise complaints, and this event is not authorized without the co-owner present." "My mother is irrelevant," Celeste snapped. "Your mother is the co-signer," Mrs. Keating corrected. "Without her on site. This qualifies as an unapproved gathering." Trent muttered a curse. A child burst into tears. Someone knocked over a glass. The curated sheen Celeste clung to slipped off her like cheap wrapping paper. Guests filed out quickly now, avoiding eye contact, avoiding the embarrassment. By 8:30, the only sounds left in that townhouse were raised voices, frustrated footsteps, and the slow collapse of an image Celeste had spent years polishing. By the time the clock neared 9, Trent Donovan had lost whatever charm he walked into the dinner with. According to what Marin later told me, he slammed his fist onto the counter hard enough to rattle a stack of plates. "This was supposed to save us," he barked. "I needed investors here. I needed tonight to look successful." Celeste stared at him. "Save us. You said your startup was fine. It is not fine," he snapped. "We are sinking, and your parents always bail us out. They will fix it again. They always do." Celeste froze. Breath caught halfway in her throat. Marin said the entire kitchen went silent, as if even the appliances were ashamed to hum. "Do not drag them into this," Celeste whispered. "They are already in it," Trent shot back. "Everything we have, everything we show comes from them." Marin stepped away. But she caught Celeste's face, shock twisting into something close to fear. Then denial, then anger, while chaos simmered inside that townhouse. Harold and I sat at our small kitchen table, 2 bowls of canned soup between us. He stirred his spoon without eating. "She really did not want us there," he said softly. "Not even for the kids." I tried to answer, but the words felt brittle. Instead, I watched the steam rise from the bowl and fade before reaching the ceiling. I felt hollow, scraped out in a way I could not describe. We could have taken the children their gifts. Harold murmured. She did not want us near her door, I said. She made that clear. Grief pressed against my ribs, not sharp, but heavy. And just as I reached for Harold's hand, a memory from earlier flashed bright and cruel. The sign on the door, the ink across our faces, the warning as if we were dangers to be kept out. That was the moment something inside me stopped bending. The pounding on our front door started just past midnight, wild, frantic. The kind of knocking that comes from panic. Not courtesy. Harold jolted upright on the couch, nearly dropping the blanket he had been clutching. Row. Who is that? I already knew. I could hear the familiar sharpness in the voice cutting through the wood. Mom, open the door right now. Celeste, I walked toward the entryway, Harold close behind me. Trembling, through the peephole, I saw her hair undone. Mascara streaked, coat thrown over her glittering dress. Behind her stood Trent, red-faced and furious, and further back, the children, sleepy and confused. Celeste slammed her palm against the door. You humiliated me. You ruined Christmas. Her accusation hit like ice water, but I kept my voice steady. Celeste, you chose that. You pulled your card from the catering, she screamed. You made me look like a fool. Trent leaned in beside her. Enough games, we need help. The catering bill alone is almost $3,000. The mortgage is due in a week. We cannot cover anything. Just open the door. Harold's breath wavered. Rowena, the kids are out there. I pressed my hand gently to his arm. Not yet. Celeste must have heard the hesitation because her voice changed, becoming syrupy and dangerous. Mom, think about your grandchildren. They deserve stability. They deserve a home. The words pierced me more deeply than the shouting ever could. She knew exactly where to aim where I was softest. For a moment, my fingers hovered over the lock. Then I pictured the sign she had taped to her door. Do not let them in. Our faces crossed out, our kindness erased. I took a breath and stepped back from the door. Celeste, I said quietly, we are not opening it tonight. She let out a choked, furious sob. Trent cursed under his breath. One of the kids began to cry. Harold turned his face away, shoulders shaking, but I did not move. Not toward the door. Not this time. The shouting outside our door had eased into ragged breaths and muffled arguments. I walked to the desk in the corner, pulled out a sheet of stationery, and began to write. The pen moved without hesitation, as if my hand had been waiting years for this moment. Ro, what are you doing? Harold asked. Voice trembling. Finishing something, I said. I wrote a formal notice, each line steady and deliberate. I, Rowena Blake, release myself from all financial responsibility tied to my daughter, Celeste Donovan. Effective immediately. No more mortgage assistance. No more automatic transfers. No more emergency fund commitments. No more quiet rescues. I folded the paper, placed it in a plain envelope, and sealed it with a firm press of my thumb. The pounding began again. Celeste's voice cracked. Mom, please, just open the door. We are family. I stepped closer and knelt, sliding the envelope beneath the door. The hallway went silent. A rustle, then a sharp inhale. What is this? Celeste demanded. It is the truth, I said. Trent snatched the paper. His voice rose immediately. You are cutting us off. Now you cannot do that. We need help. You need control, I replied. I am no longer offering either. Celeste's voice wobbled. Mom, you would really abandon us, the mortgage, the bills. How are we supposed to manage? You are adults, I said calmly. You will learn. Trent's shoes scraped against the floor. Unbelievable. She is useless now. Come on. Celeste, we will figure it out without them. He stomped down the hallway, muttering curses. The children followed slowly, rubbing their eyes. Celeste stayed crouched by the door, her breathing shallow. "You hung a sign telling us not to enter your home," I said quietly. "Tonight. I am honoring it." She let out a small, broken sound. "Mom, please, do not do this." "I already have." I turned the lock gently, then set the chain into place. Behind me, Harold exhaled shakily, the sound of someone bracing for the shift of an entire life. On the other side of the door, Celeste whispered something I could not make out. Then her footsteps faded down the hallway, leaving only the echo of everything that had just changed. Christmas morning rose quietly, without ceremony, no alarm clocks, no rushing, no heavy expectations, just the soft hum of the heater and the faint smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Harold sat at the table in his robe, hands wrapped around his mug. His eyes were swollen from a night of little sleep, but they were clearer than they had been in months. "I keep thinking we should have gone after her," he murmured. "She is still our daughter. Ro." I poured myself a cup and sat across from him. "We did go after her. For 40 years. Every time she stumbled, we carried her. Every time she wanted more, we found a way to give it." I reached for his hand. "We taught her to stand. Now she must do it." He looked down, thumb brushing the rim of his mug. "I feel relieved," he admitted, "and guilty for feeling relieved." "Both can be true," I said. "Relief does not erase love." My phone buzzed on the counter, a voicemail. I stepped over and pressed play. "Rowena, it is Marin. I just wanted to say thank you. What you did last night was the calmest decision I have seen a parent make. You handled it with dignity. I hope you and Harold have a peaceful Christmas. You deserve it." I let the message end on its quiet note. Harold watched me carefully. "You all right, I am," I said, for the first time in a long while. He nodded slowly, then offered a small smile. "Maybe next Christmas. We can do something simple. Just us. Maybe a drive to the coast. Maybe fishing. Something that feels like ours." I said, "Yes." He whispered, "Ours." We sat together in the quiet, letting the warmth settle around us, not the warmth of holiday lights or grand dinners, but the kind that comes from finally letting your shoulders drop after holding too much for too long. It was late afternoon when the knock came, again soft this time, almost timid. Harold looked at me, worry lining his brow. "I will answer," I said. I opened the door just enough to see her. Celeste stood alone in the hallway, eyes swollen, makeup washed away. No glittering dress, no party smile, just our daughter. Stripped of the illusions she worked so hard to build. "Mom," she whispered, "I am not here for money. I am just here for you." The words hit deep, but they were delicate, fragile, easily blown away by the next storm. I stepped aside but did not widen the door. "Why now?" She swallowed. "I messed everything up. I know that. And I know what Trent said, what I allowed. I do not want your money anymore. I want my parents back." Harold took a small step forward, hope flickering in his eyes. I held up a hand gently. "Celeste," I said, "love does not mean we return to a life that hurt us." She wiped her cheek. "Then tell me what to do. I will fix it. Just tell me." I reached into the drawer by the door and pulled out a single document. Her name and Trent's name were printed across the top in clean black ink. "This is everything you asked for," I said. "All the power, all the independence, full responsibility for the townhouse, the debts, the utilities, every account tied to you and Trent. I removed myself from all of it." She stared at the paper as though it were written in fire. "You are cutting me loose. I am giving you exactly what you demanded." I answered, a life without us holding you up. You wanted distance. Now you must learn how to live in it. Celeste pressed the heels of her hands against her eyes. This time, the tears were not furious. They were clear, quiet, honest. I never meant to lose you, she whispered. You did not lose us, I said softly. You walked past us. I handed her the document. She accepted it with trembling fingers. I hope you find your way, I added. But we are not your safety net anymore. She nodded once, then lowered her head and stepped back. I closed the door gently. Not out of anger, but finality. Harold approached me slowly. Row, did we do the right thing? I touched his cheek. This year, Christmas finally belonged to us. We walked to the table and lit a single candle, its flame steady and warm between us. As it glowed, one truth settled deep in my chest. Sometimes revenge is not about breaking someone, it is about finally refusing to let them break you. If this story moved you, remember to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more powerful life stories.